Welcome, everybody. This is pretty exciting. We got our zkVerify Hackathon. People are signing up right now, and we got a bunch of teams already that are building projects to do ZK application and infrastructure in a few different ways. You can register right now. We'll provide the link for it, and the projects are due on December 10th, so you still got lots of time. We got engineers to talk about this. Today, we got a really exciting panel about games and how we can use ZK proofs with games. And I've got some special guests here going to do a quick intro, and then we're going to just start having discussions and questions about what we're doing. And to lay the groundwork, so we got our Manchester, UK team right here. So Isaac Nelson is with the business development team at Horizon Labs, has from Manchester, and has been talking with a lot of projects that are applying to the Ape Banana Bill, the $100 million grant program for people to build applications and deploy them on Ape Chain. So he's got a lot of insight into what the latest things are doing. Steve is also on the Manchester, UK team. He was on a last live stream. QA engineer at Horizon Lab, does a lot of the tool development and explaining on how to use zkVerify. And at the 30-minute point, Steve is going to go through and in good detail, going through GitHubs, going through code, talking about different things about how some demo applications that are currently live, some basic games like ZK Mastermind and ZK Sudoku, integrate zkVerify to quickly and inexpensively verify zero-knowledge proofs. We got Spencer, who is working growth at the Ape Foundation, and Spencer and Isaac work together to really help Arbitrum and the Ape DAO make the Ape Chain launch a few months ago successful. It's one of the hottest orbit chains for games on Arbitrum. And again, Spencer, just like Isaac's, been right in the middle of all this and has lots of good topical information on how people are going to use ZK with games. So, Spencer, I want to start with you. Can you tell me big picture how the conversations have been going with different developers that are developing for Ape Chain and seeing how they can use ZK proofs to make their games and applications better?
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's a couple of things for context on that side, which is that, Ape Chain, it does have a strong focus on games. It's not games alone, obviously, right? But it does have a strong focus there. But what that team is really interested in is not necessarily like kind of classic big budget games that don't do anything new, but they're interested in things that kind of push the tech forward, right? Are more unique to that chain. And zkVerify is one of those things that allows that team to do that, right? So, in terms of conversations, there's great stuff happening with Pixel Vault and Battle Plan and player matching. There's great stuff happening with Trailblaze and Monkey Raffle. Where we would love to see things going, or anything that, allows things like card games, right, to be more active on Ape Chain. Anything that, calls for Fog of War to be more active on Ape Chain. And we think that zkVerify can help a lot with those things, as well as there's a lot of what we call skill-based wagering, that happens on there, which you may know by some other terms. But skill-based wagering requires a level of trust as well as a level of privacy, right? That traditionally is tough to build into, in on-chain games. And so, there's a strong belief that zkVerify can help with those things too. The other thing that I would say is that for people who come out of this with fully finished projects and then are interested in getting additional funding to launch them on Ape Chain, there are a whole number of options there, including the Banana Bill, including Thank Ape and things like that. So, that's obviously a path that we would love to see you take. But, it's up to you.
No, that's really cool, Spencer. Appreciate that perspective. And I'm having a lot of private chats with developers that are in this hackathon, and they're talking about ideas for games. And I want to emphasize that, you know, Web3 games and on-chain games are really important. However, Steve, when you went to a few different hackathons, you saw that people were able to integrate Web2 apps directly with zkVerify. And what struck me, and you're going to go into detail on this earlier, is that there's a lot of GitHub projects of people creating small, straightforward games in the ZK space that have an element of either a hidden answer or a fog of war, or proving that an answer is correct. And so that leads us to the ability to do Web 2 games. So do you have any advice for people that are doing this hackathon of what to look for on, you know, maybe some basic straightforward games that they can integrate into zkVerify?
Sure, you've actually spoiled the surprise for the end of my the end of this live, but we can do it right away at the beginning. Yeah, I guess anyone who's struggling for ideas, I really recommend using GitHub's advanced search and just start searching for terms that are associated with zero knowledge. So anything web-based, might be using something like Snark.js at the moment, and creating the proofs and verifying the proofs purely using that. You can search for terms like the lower level libraries like Circom, or any of these newer ones that have kind of abstracted away a lot of that complexity. So you can look at Risk Zero and Aztec's Noir. But yeah, just use GitHub's advanced search. Take a look. Anything that we support, such as Graph16, you can search for those kind of terms, and the chances are that someone's built something already, but it's just not verifying either. Might not even be verifying on chain, to be honest. But these are the kind of things that you can look at to possibly use in a hackathon that integrates with zkVerify.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. And I remember, based on your suggestion, on the frequently asked questions section of the hackathon webpage on DevFolio, if you scroll all the way down on the first page, there's some Q&A and then links to some different example applications, the ones that you're going to go through in detail, and ones that are on GitHub that look like, some of them are really cool, like the battle zips. And but others just kind of seem to have been abandoned. I think that's because in order to have a public verification, people have this feeling in the ZK space that you have to publicly verify on Ethereum or an EVM, and it takes maybe 1 to 2 minutes to generate a proof, and it takes a few minutes to verify a proof, and the creation and verification can take somewhere between 10 cents and $5. And if you have a whole space of people that want to do things with ZK applications, here being you generate it on your mobile device and it costs you a penny to verify, and all the way at this end, you generate it on a prover network and it takes 20 minutes to create the proof, and it takes, you know, $20 to verify. Right now, we're in this design space where expensive and slow for ZK is what gets the majority of the attention. But if we could open up the design space by verifying new types of ZK proofs that are much less expensive and much faster, we can have all sorts of applications that people have been dreaming about doing for the last 8-10 years using zero knowledge proofs actually come to market and be usable because they have a good UX, they have a good purpose to exist, and they have the right type of speed and price to be able to do well in the market. So I want to throw a question to you, Isaac. You've been talking to a lot of gaming companies, small ones, big ones, Web 2, Web 3 gaming. In your conversations with these, what are some of the ideas of using ZK proofs that come up on a regular basis that are interesting to you?
Yeah, definitely. I think I mean the sort of the number one use case example we found so far was with Trailblaze, as Spencer mentioned earlier. So Trailblaze are a gaming launchpad that we'd been in conversations with for a while on the Ape Chain side, and essentially they wanted to improve the randomness and prove the fairness and transparency of a raffle for token holders. So they captured a snapshot of all Monkey token holders. I believe they granted one raffle ticket per Monkey token held, and then essentially they use zkVerify to select 3 winners and then published ZK proofs enabling anyone to verify the raffle's fairness, essentially. I think another couple of different exciting use cases that we've sort of explored using ZK proofs with a battle game. It's like around in-game asset ownership, essentially. If you can imagine, sort of, you'd won in a battle game a unique sword or shield that grants special abilities. You might want to prove you own the sword to participate in activities without revealing the exact details of the asset. So it's just another sort of use case where ZK proofs could be pretty sort of game changing in a sort of Web3 gaming model.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. I know one of the organizations that we work with, Space and Time, they just launched their proof of SQL. They have a big game that they work with called Shrapnel. And when they were explaining to me, they called it a Web 2.5 game because it's a Web 2 game.
Right.
But what Space and Time does is they track all these different blockchains out there. And so what happens in Shrapnel is when you want to trade your items, like the special sword that you mentioned or something like that, it moves that over to a blockchain marketplace where people can buy and sell and trade, and it's done with NFTs. And so there's a mapping between the Web 2 game and the Web 3 marketplace, and Space and Time makes that go back and forth in a very seamless manner. Their new proof of SQL thing they just announced brings that service into a decentralized, permissionless way. And one of the verifiers that our crack team of cryptographers and developers has created is a verifier specifically for the Space and Time proof of SQL on a new and different type of curve. So on the BLS 12 381 curve, which is just as fast as the BN 254 curve that's on Ethereum, and it's much more secure. So really enjoy working with them and look forward to doing more of these Web 2.5 games. So yeah, no, go ahead.
Just saying, yeah, super cool use case, and I think like that's I think one of the many reasons I've been so grateful to be able to work on Ape Chain and the Banana Bill is yeah, I mean, seeing how enthusiastic the majority of the game developers that we've spoken to are around ZK technology and obviously potentially zkVerify, because I mean, I think it's sort of a no-brainer to at least explore, which has sort of opened a lot of doors and yeah, given us a number of different sort of new and exciting use cases to explore with game developers from both Web 2 and then obviously a lot in Web 3. Yeah,
no, that's a good point. When the team came up with the design for zkVerify, gosh, over a year ago, we kind of looked in the future and said, okay, so where are ZK proofs going to go? Are there going to be more of them, or are going to be less of them? Well, there's always this new development in cryptographic proofs and advancements and all sorts of things like that. And there's a lot of use cases, especially for like moving between Web 2 and Web 3, or even just like you're saying, okay, we generate randomness, but how can we prove that it's actually random? Same thing like with AI training data. Okay, we did AI training data, but how can we prove that it's giving you good answers or it's trained on the right data or things like that? And ZK proofs allow you to generate the proof of that once, verify the proof, and then everybody is able to, using the mathematics and understanding of it, trust that that was done properly. And so we noticed in these games that a lot of people were publishing their proofs on Ethereum because there needed to be a public, decentralized, permissionless, and secure platform to publish these proofs at, so people could refer to them and say, okay, yeah, that was run correctly, and that they didn't have to download the proof and verify it on their own machine, or something like that. So that and then saying, okay, well, if there's going to be a lot more ZK proofs that need to be verified across this full spectrum of use cases, how can we design the most effective system long-term that funds itself, that's low cost, that's high performance, that people are going to want to have as the central place in the entire Web3 ecosystem? So kind of a platform or the centerpiece of a network or something like that. And that's how the idea for a zkVerify. So one of the things that we have to explain to people looking to design on zkVerify, it's not a smart contracting platform. It's not an EVM. It does two things. It manages the gas and governance token, and it verifies proofs. That's it. And zkVerify is in testnet right now, looking to go to mainnet probably here in February in 2025. And that's when the token will be necessary, of course. And then we'll be off and running. So Spencer, you said something the last time you were talking. I got a question about that. So you said games of skill. And that reminded me that there was a few months back, someone posted me an article how there was a online poker game, and it turned out that I thought, and I'm not sure who this company was, but that some of the employees that worked at the poker game were playing against the actual players, and that there were other companies that were doing things where the house was getting a bigger cut than they should have. And it's really hard to trust one of these centralized Web 2 systems without having some kind of insight into what they're doing. So do you see in your discussions with game developers that being able to prove these types of things running well, do they think that's going to be a competitive advantage?
I think it is. I think that it's so much about kind of adding trust. You know, what you're talking about are a lot of the things for those who are, I guess, as ancient as me at this point and remember, Black Friday for poker in the United States when everything got shut down. One of the preceding things for that was the fact that there were a handful of platforms that basically were cheating their users, right? And they were able to use centralized databases and the open information there to basically play and see cards and do all of that kind of stuff against them. If I remember, the guy who's a lawyer who's the head of risk and regulation at one of them later wound up in the same position at Alameda. So give me a sense of what was going on there. Rare double kind of trouble thing there.
Reminds me of that LinkedIn post where it's like, man, I got the worst luck in jobs, and they got the list of all like Enron and all these other companies.
Right, but I think that like building trust and those types of things and showing provably fair results is an enormous thing. I think it's important in Web3 today. I think that it's also important in terms of getting to a place where these issues can be solved and can be re-regulated in sort of a traditional Web2 world, because they've been sticking points for a long time, right? So I think there's quote unquote real world problems that are solvable there.
Nice. Okay, so I'm going to follow up on that, Spencer. So do you see any? So one of the coolest things to me actually is with these hackathons to see these ideas that people come up with, because I know I get like a good idea every once in a while. Well, I get a bunch of ideas, and then it takes me a while to figure out if they're good ideas or bad ideas or just ideas. But if you get more people in the space, people come up with ideas, and sometimes you can recognize them and say, that's a really good idea. Like in one of the hackathons, there was a developer who said, well, I'm just going to use Telegram and create an app on Telegram to verify that or to prove that it's a token gated chat. Basically, you got to prove that you earn a certain amount of token before you can get into a chat. So you generate a ZK proof, it gets verified on zkVerify, and you get into the chat, and you can remain anonymously without exposing what your wallet is. And I'm like, I didn't even think about creating an app on Telegram. That's such a great idea. So Spencer, in these discussions, and you talk with everybody in the ape space, and I know there was a huge big ape gathering at the F1 race in Las Vegas, and so maybe people are still kind of recovering from that, but I'm sure they're going to engage here again soon. What are some of the surprising things that you've seen coming out of the ape community for just anything? It doesn't have to be ZK, but I like ZK.
I think that community, it's full, and I don't know if any of this is surprising, but it's full of builders, right? It's obviously full of artists and creators and things like that, and we've known that it's full of sort of entrepreneurs and things like that as well. But to me, I think on that side, it's that it has such an engaged developer community, and people who have been part of that community, but have been building in all sorts of other places, whether that be on Base, on Blast, on Solana, on Ethereum, or wherever, and who are now kind of sitting there being like, yeah, I had wished that there was like a place where I could go and tap into this community and access this community before, and there just really wasn't up until this point. And now I'm going to move all of my stuff over to ApeChain. I'm going to build on ApeChain. I think that within that particular community, it's both continuously strong, vocal, supportive, and there's a lot of liquidity for that matter, at a base layer. And so it makes it kind of really attractive. And I think that anybody who's worked in there knows that if you build something for them, it gets sort of promoted, right, as a result, naturally, because they're so excited about everything that kind of ties into that. I think that that's been a big part of it. I think that also for anybody on the game side who's doing anything around NFTs, we knew that NFTs would be a strong thing on ApeChain. I don't think that we knew how strong they would be. It's very, very quickly becoming the place within sort of the broader Ethereum ecosystem for NFTs. And so I think that for anybody who's building out games, and things like that, it really does unlock a nice revenue stream, both in terms of minting and in terms of creative royalties and things along those lines, which are a bit more enforced on this chain than others. So, I think those, again, I don't know if those are like quote unquote surprising things, but I think that those are reasons why it makes sense to build these things there.
No, that's great. I mean, there's so many good apps on there already. I've been using Camelot already. I'm looking forward to a Borrow Lend. I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask about that.
End of this week.
No way.
2 of them. End of this week.
End of this week?
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. Okay. Well, I noticed going to some of the Ape events that some people take their privacy really seriously. Do you think that there might be some of these developers that are interested in adding privacy to whether it's NFT trading or games of skill or other things like that? And I'll throw that out to any of y'all to answer.
I'll start, and I would say absolutely yes. I think that one of the things about apes, and one of the things that was surprising to me when I started to get involved with that community, was how many people are in there almost as like a secret society in a lot of ways, right? So it's like you have people and you know them as, whatever their ape name is, and behind their avatar. And when you go and you actually talk to them, you realize like, oh, like I know who this person is, or this is somebody, who has an entire another life that, is not in crypto and things like that. And they're trying to keep it separate. So I think, the ethos of that is so tied into kind of the crypto ethos, right? There's so much crossover with a lot of people who are long-term kind of OGs and with like the crypto punk community, which is similar to that as well. Whereas, I think there's a lot of people and they're operating in a way in which they don't necessarily want all the information about what they're doing out in public, right? They do want some of that protection for sure. So I think that there's a huge, huge demand and need for that. Right. This, having been from some of these events, are guys who don't even want you to take a picture with them, right? Like, so
totally.
Yes, 100%. And it's not because of anything nefarious. It's just because this is a compartmentalized part of their life on one side. It's a security issue on another. There are a lot of legitimate reasons for that.
Yeah, totally understand the security issue. I was watching on X.com during the event. One of the guys that had a bunch of apes got them drained from his wallet while he was there at the event. It was terrible to see. So totally understand. And that's not unique to the ape community as well. There's went to ETH Milan last year, and one of the founders of VeriChain, he's wearing a bear hood, or a bear costume over his thing while he's up on stage. And now I also like how when you get the 8 guys on people on your side, that you get very exciting people. So I can show some of these X tweets here on the bottom. So I like believers, right? So it's great to have folks doing that. Okay, so we got 5 minutes until we step into a more technical aspect of this call. I'm going to throw this open for anybody to say anything at this point about games and ZK and zkVerify or that kind of stuff. If you don't have anything to say, I'm just going to ask you a question, put you on the spot again. Steve, in the round robin, I think it's your turn. So one of the things that you did, Steve, was when we have for Horizon Eon, you created a whole bunch of NFTs minted on Horizon Eon. Have you minted any NFTs on ApeChain yet? And if you haven't, why not?
No, I haven't. It is something that, to be honest, that I should look at. It's one of those, isn't it? There's with the amount of development, as Spencer said, and the amount of builders on there, it's something I'll certainly be looking at in the future. But it was pretty cool to launch the first collection on Horizon, and maybe we'll see some more of it next year.
Yeah, well, I mean, the big difference between Horizon, the upcoming Horizon 2.0 and zkVerify is Horizon 2 is going to be a EVM that has the verification extension. So just like we're doing a hackathon now for zkVerify, we're going to be doing another hackathon late January, early February when Horizon 2 has the testnet available to be able to do things. So zkVerify is designed to work with every other project that is out there, and that's why it's so important that we're sharing these examples and how-tos with people. We are finishing up the integration with Arbitrum right now. So deploying the zkVerify contract onto Arbitrum. And so as part of this hackathon, if you want to have a smart contract that is a project for this, so right now you can deploy it on Horizon Eon testnet, the 8chain testnet, Curtis, the Ethereum testnet, Sefolia, and then the Arbitrum 1 testnet. I don't remember what that's called. But as we continue down this path, we're going to be integrating with more and more smart contracting platforms. One of our sponsors is Hyperbridge. Going to have one of the founders of Hyperbridge on another live stream tomorrow. Hyperbridge is super cool because it is a bridge that's not only decentralized, but bridges Polkadot to EVMs and other types of smart contracting platforms too. And zkVerify is built on Substrate, which is the open source blockchain design kit that Polkadot has outsourced and continue to create. So there's awesome governance features on it. It's highly performant. As we improve and add verifiers, they can be put onto the chain without having to do hard forks. It's really a great technical platform for this. Okay, so any last minute things before I hand this over to Steve to enter the more technical aspect of it? Isaac, I'll give you a last chance for a shout out here, and then we'll go backstage while Steve's doing his technical stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only other thing I'd look to highlight that we hadn't potentially mentioned is I mean, leaning into how Spencer called I think skill-based wagering. I think obviously ApeChain is a really degen. Well, we've leaned into sort of the degen nature of that with launch, and that's obviously been really successful. And a lot of the games and applications that are going to be coming on over the next few months may well sort of be based around skill-based wagering, and I think that's a huge use case for zkV and zk proofs in general to sort of improve the randomness and prove the fairness of each hand, for example, on a trading card game. So watch out for that, and potentially a huge use case with a big Web2 developer coming over onto ApeChain, integrating zkV. So that's
that's your hint. A big Web2 developer onto ApeChain.
I
like that hint.
Yeah, it's not signed or anything yet, but hopefully it goes ahead, and watch out for that.
Nice. Okay, Spencer. Any ideas of big or exciting protocols coming onto ApeChain, or anything else you want to say about ApeChain?
No, just that, I think that people should come and build there. I think there's a lot of exciting stuff coming. I think that there's a lot of best in class, integration support and infrastructure support and developer support there. And, excited to get the zkVerify community involved in it.
Nice. Okay, cool. Thanks. Well, Steve, you got 2 demo apps, and you take this direction any way that you want to go on. But we want to add to this this essential part here where we can help the people that are joining the hackathon to build awesome stuff. So integrating with a Web3 platform like ApeChain is really important, but you can also do browser-based games that the only Web3 aspect that they have is verifying the proofs on zkVerify. So I'm going to hand this over to you to step through your explanation of being able to do that.
Great. Right. Let me just get set up with the presentation.
Okay, cool. And Isaac and Spencer, I'm going to pull you all backstage, and really appreciate it. Thank you. And yeah, while Steve's getting set up, what he did on the last presentation, which is available on the Hackathon website under events, was go through the zkVerify JS, which is a JavaScript helper application that has all the ways to integrate your application with zkVerify. And if you go to the zkVerify documents, there's lots of good examples and information there. And for people that are in the hackathon, we want to make sure that you're successful. So you're welcome to come to our Discord and go and do the hackathon channel there. We talk on Telegram. And if there's specific questions and you're building something, we can set up a small group with some of our developers that can talk through some of the specific questions that you might have. We do that on a regular basis with many projects and people that are already building on zkVerify. So Steve, you ready?
Yeah,
I'm going to add your screen to the stage here. Okay.
We're good. Right. I'll just start off with the conversation we had at the beginning, which was around anyone looking for inspiration for a hackathon or anything to do with zk. This is just a very simple search that you can do on GitHub. Do an advanced search, and simply even searching for the words zk hackathon will bring up a lot of projects people have completed in the past, and there are tens of pages there. So there's a lot of people building. There's a lot of projects to take inspiration from. Okay, so let's move over then. So I think this is the first app that we converted. So we wanted to demonstrate the integration of zkVerify into an existing zk project. So this particular one was called zk Snark Sudoku. And we also wanted to integrate with one of our partners, which is Sindri, which is they provide serverless zk infrastructure. So they allow us to send or request a proof be generated based on a circuit serverlessly and then gets sent back. So this particular app demonstrates both, and we'll take a look at a code in a second. So Sudoku, a lot of people are familiar with, puzzle logic game where the solution has to be completed, where every row, every column has to use the numbers from 1 to 9, and they can't be reused. So what we've got here is the ability to solve this puzzle instantly, which is useful. So you can see here we've generated a complete solution. We're going to save the puzzle, puzzle 20. We're going to generate a proof. So what this is doing is sending over our details to Sindri, which is going to generate the proof. That's now been done. We can then save it. And then on this right-hand side, I guess I will explain. Obviously, this in a real format would be a lot simpler. A lot of this functionality would be combined, but purely for demonstration purposes, and the kind of different steps, more advanced apps might be doing in the background: generation of the proof, taking the original solution, which is hopefully that one. Maybe that one. That one. Oh, here we go. Take the puzzle. Okay. All right. So we've got the puzzle that should have been loaded. This is not great, is it? Let's give that a quick refresh. I'm just having some jitters. Maybe it's just not loading at all. Let's see. All right, we'll load the proof. We'll see if we can verify that. All right, no account connected. So again, this is one of the things that we've added into this app was the wallet connection. We're using the Talisman repo. And we've loaded the proof down at the bottom, although at the moment the puzzle's not loading, but we'll just double check if this actually does work.
While you're doing that, I'm just going to jump in here and talk to give you a second to figure that out. So this does highlight how zkVerify is going to be a successful ongoing public place for proofs to be verified, because every time someone sends a proof to zkVerify to be verified, they do have to send a little bit of the token. So right now it's obviously in testnet. So we call these the Acme token. On the last live stream, Steve demonstrated our block explorer and our faucet for where you can get Acme token for building. I know that we have things in progress that will be able to abstract away these types of being able to pay the token directly. But tokenomics of a protocol is so important, because not only do you want to be able to have the funds to be able to create it and launch it successfully, and there's so many things like security reviews and getting in partners and things like that. We want to have a protocol that is able to have sources and sinks. So the sources of funding is people sending proofs to zkVerify. Really cool that it is built on Substrate. zkVerify is actually becoming a Substrate relay chain. And if we end up needing to scale through having data availability or specific parachains for specific applications, we are able to do that. So this is really a significant project that we're looking to have as the center of the ZK network, where people send their ZK proofs of every different type, whether they're Plonkish proofs or Starks or FRI or Binius or any of these things. We're going to have verifiers for everything, and then verify them once, and we'll be able to share the receipt of the verification to all sorts of other projects out there, and it can be seen on the blockchain. So I'll hand it back to you, Steve, here.
Thank you. I think this is probably one of those nice bugs that shows up on a live stream. Actually, the puzzle is loaded. The problem is it's not being displayed, but we'll figure that out. But essentially, what we've done is we've loaded the puzzle, the solution that we've saved from the previous step. We've loaded the proof in that was generated based on that puzzle via Sindri, and then we're clicking the verify proof button, which is going to ask for our approval on a transaction to zkVerify. What that's doing is sending the proof to zkVerify and verifying that the proof is valid.
And I want to highlight something you just said there. So obviously, there's a couple different ways of generating the proof. One of them is to generate it on the device itself. And the other, in this case, our hackathon partner Sindri, which make beautiful web-based ZK tools. We have and we have an integration, is that there's a request to Sindri to create the proof in their cloud proving network, and then it's brought back to the application, which then can send it to zkVerify to verifier. So there's multiple ways to generate proofs, whether it's in-device, in browser, proving networks. And proving networks are really important. We work with many different proving networks because sometimes some applications want to prove just a large amount of stuff, or they want to do it as a service where it's not done on somebody's individual machine. So anyway, I just wanted to highlight because Sindri is one of our sponsors, and we love sponsors. Go ahead, Steve.
We do. Yeah, so you're right. Proof generation can be computationally expensive. You don't necessarily want to run it within your app, and certainly in some cases you wouldn't be able to run it within a web app in the first place. So yeah, offloading that can be very beneficial. So that was it in terms of the front end. I just wanted to quickly go through, I guess, some of the changes that we made to the original repository that we forked from. So I was just hoping that we could quickly take a look at this. So as well as updating documentation, and we can provide links to this as well on the Horizon Labs repo.
I like how you gave full credit to the people who originally created this version that we forked and integrated zkVerify.
Yeah, absolutely. So our changes are quite minimal here, and that's exactly what I really wanted to demonstrate. Right, so first thing when taking any of these projects is going to be looking at the dependencies. So making sure that everything is as up to date as possible. Adding any dependencies that are needed for things like wallet connection. So, for instance, I think in all of the projects that we've converted, we're using this this talisman, these talisman libraries, which give us all the wallet UI and everything that you saw on here. So this is this window here, and the ability to be able to select the substrate-based wallets. React updates, Snark.js, which this was, I think, using originally. So yeah, you can see there, this was on quite an old version. So again, if you're starting a new project, make sure you've got the very latest libraries. Okay, so then we've got, we added in a Sindri API. So this deals with all of the process for connecting to Sindri. I'm not going to go into that in too much detail, but just like a lot of these services, they provide an API that you connect to with your API keys, and then different endpoints for generating your proof based on a particular circuit. All of this we can ignore. Some nice zkVerify logos, a connect wallet button. This is available in the npx command that I discussed in the last live meeting we did. So you probably don't need to worry about this too much either. So obviously all the functionality to do with whether your wallet's connected, whether it's got enough balance, all that kind of stuff. We added in a Sindri flag, as we still have the capability to generate the proof via Snark.js within this app if needed. So if you want to see how it worked originally. In fact, one of the things that we had to do, which is a good thing to know actually for others looking to integrate with us, is the number of public inputs. I think were quite large from the web app side. So I think pretty much every single number that's entered into the solution was a public input, and we only support so many. So one of the solutions for that is to pack them or hash them in a way that reduces them down, but still allows us to unpack them within the circuit. So that's certainly something that people will need to think about if they have a lot of public inputs.
As I remember, that was a creative solution. I think there was maybe 81 public inputs, and our verifier supports, is it 16 or something like that?
Yeah, 16 is correct for Gross 16.
Yeah, when they told me, and I'm an engineer, but I'm not a super developer like these guys are. They're like, I thought it was a showstopper, but they're like, no, we can figure something out. And so these are the types of little things that make a big difference.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess this kind of stuff as well, like reducing the number of values can do good things for efficiency and obviously the time taken to generate the proofs. Okay, so there's not too much else in here actually. I'm going to do a search for Snark.js. Okay, let's go back up. What was this one? I guess that was one of the things for this. So as a web app, the original owner of this repo kind of lazy loaded Snark.js or included the library. So I think the proof generation is all done client side. Obviously would become could cause some problems, I guess, on server side if you've got a lot of people connecting to your app and you're expecting your server to be able to handle proof generation. Obviously, another reason to offload to a service like Sindri. Okay, let's just. Here we go. This is the line. So originally, this project was using Snark.js and just doing a full proof on the inputs. And that was it. The verification, I believe, on here was being done by a verifier. I'm just going to see if it's not in here. All right, let's ignore that. We might be able to see that in the other projects. But essentially, yeah, so this was originally using Snark.js, using the full proof. We switched that out. There is a use zkVerify hook, which we'll go to down here. And actually, you can see an example of this in our npx command for bootstrapping a new Next.js project. But essentially, we switched out the Snark.js use, created a hook to connect to zkVerify. And this is also using a lazy loaded zkVerify.js. And then sending everything over and responding back to the calling code. So for this particular one, that's about it. Like I said, there was a few UI changes. There's the code here for how we packed the puzzle array into a smaller input, and everything else is kind of UI changes. So I think this is a good project to take a look at in terms of how easy it was to change the actual Snark.js functionality out and use zkVerify instead. So we're going to switch over to another app quickly, just aware of time. This is...
Steve, we got all the time in the world. This is important and informational stuff. Take your time, go through this, do this right. I just wanted to say I love what you're doing here.
Great. Right, let's switch back. Okay, so this one actually came from one of our hackathons. So who doesn't get all the credit because he was someone who also took this from someone else. So I think his role for the hackathon was to take an existing project, convert it to zkVerify. And we've got a few commits that fixed a few issues afterwards. So the idea was ZK Mastermind, the Mastermind game, the game master or the code maker traditionally will have come up with a code that consists of four colored pins, I think traditionally, and you have 10 guesses to try guess that code. So obviously from the beginning you are you're selecting a color, and you can repeat the same color. You don't know whether this color exists or what its position is. You perform a check by generating a proof. So in the background, I think this one's used Snark.js. We can confirm that afterwards. Okay, so again, we got 0 guesses correct. But what we can then do is we can send this guess to zkVerify, which is going to verify that we played this game fairly. So there's a number of rules within the circuit that make sure the colors you selected were in this range, that you didn't take more than 4, there's no more than 4 guesses, and there's kind of rules like that just assure that you haven't cheated. So you can see that this was verified successfully with zkVerify. And we have a nice little shield
Can I
there.
just jump in here? Because I think I understand what you're saying about how ZK proofs are, and I think it's split into 2 things. So the first thing you check is it checks the colors against the answer. And is the answer hidden in the web app using a ZK proof or something like that, so you can't see what the answer is? Or maybe I'm misunderstanding that. And then the second thing is to prove that it was played by the rules of the game. Is that how it is, or am I wrong about that?
Yeah, that's right. So I think there's a hash that's matched up to the private solution to kind of see whether you've completed it or not, and then there's additional checks as to whether each of your choices and what was sent by the user is of valid, basically. So you've not sent something that all of a sudden has 5 colors in it instead of 4. You've not used a color that doesn't exist in this game. I think at the moment for this one, it just used numbers.
Oh yeah, because if you send like 20 colors at once, you'd be able to figure out the answer quicker.
Yeah, so there's I guess the thing with these games as well, these pre-existing ones, at least we do find bugs in them. As you play them more, creating the circuits can be difficult. Obviously, these things do need a lot of testing. But yeah, essentially, this is another demonstration of I'm playing a game and I'm playing it fairly, which for me, at least, is more. If I've got money on the line or something like that, talking about wagering money on these games and things, that becomes really important. Playing lottery or casino games, things like that, very important. Anything competitive, there's certainly room for checking this kind of stuff to making sure everyone entering is competing fairly.
Yeah, and one of the ways to make that more exciting is if you have a game that is, like you said, provably fair, and everybody who's playing it is competing fairly. Then you can do a whole chart of who the winners are, right? So a daily, so you can do a whole nother web page of who's got the best score today, or who's got the top 10 best scores today, who's got the top 10 best scores for the week. And then you could even turn it into I'm going to call it a wagering game. You could say, okay, I'm going to bet 1 zkVerify token that I can get the answer in 5, or that I can get the answer quickly. And like if I get it in 3, maybe I get 10 zkVerify tokens back. If I get it in 12, I get maybe 0.1 back or something like that. So you can take a base example like this, with the cool thing being no bugs, provably fair, everything works straight, and then you can add on to things, whether it's a leaderboard or a skill-based wagering aspect or things like that. So I remember playing this, dating myself, I remember playing this actual board game when I was a kid, and so we'd sit around and we do fun things with it. It wasn't just about playing the game and beating people; it was talking with people, it was doing all sorts of other things. So it seems like that this is a simple, basic game, but you can build on this and do other things with it because it's being run right and it's provably fair. And if you're wagering on it, like you said, whether obviously tokens of no value is the legal way to do it, but you're wagering on it. It's a fair competition, and that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the key things for me. Like I said, it's anything where you're competing, or there's money involved, or some kind of fame, or you definitely want to prove it was all done fairly. Maybe you don't care too much if you're just playing a game locally by yourself. You prove it to yourself. Maybe you do. maybe you care that the logic of the game is fair if you keep losing, for instance.
Once you get competition into it, though, it makes people want to play and beat other people. Some people are. I swear, I actually have the proof of this. I solved it in 3 tries once. I'm pretty proud of that. I took a screenshot, but the actual ZK proof would have been more valid. I would have loved to have been on top of the leaderboard for the week.
I did quite terribly there, so I've given up.
I don't think you have a good strategy for this, Steve. I'm just saying.
There you go. I'm not a mastermind. But so I was going to quickly have a look at the code on this as well. It's very similar to the previous one, so I'll just do this really quickly. And actually, you can see from, again, we start with the dependencies. First step again, and actually there's a couple of key points on here. So again, you see the Snark.js updates. A lot of these projects tend to be on very old versions of Snark.js. One of the other things was, in fact, you don't see it on here. So actually the original circuits in this project were compiled with the JavaScript version of Circom, which is now deprecated. That's one other thing to be aware of. So you notice in the ZK Mastermind project that all the verification keys and everything are different, and actually all the circuit has obviously been recreated and regenerated using the Rust version of Circom. So I believe this project has instructions for that in there as well. But essentially, again, the same thing. I think we found a couple of little bugs with the circuit, some changes to the UI to pull out from using Snark.js. And in fact, this one also was using a verifier.sol. So this was actually doing its verification within a verifier contract on Ethereum. So this is one of the cost savings for zkVerify. We no longer need all that verification code in the contracts. You can send it to zkVerify to do that verification for you, and then use the zkVerify contract on the various EVMs to prove its validity.
Yeah, and this is to my point. I mean, right now, if you're sending the proof to Ethereum to verify, it probably costs you somewhere between $1 and $3 in Ethereum gas fees. Nobody's going to pay that to pay ZK Mastermind and prove that they paid fairly. But if we can get to a very low cost on zkVerify, and you're doing something, whether it's leaderboard recognition or games of chance wagering, then you don't mind paying that very small amount to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's pretty much for it there. We've got links to these projects. We've got links to the GitHub repos. You can see the changes between the fork that we created and the app that we then deployed. But essentially, switching out existing projects to use zkVerify is very, very easy.
Wonderful. Thanks for going over this. So I like working with you on this. It reminds me back when I used to be deploying Cisco networks at higher education institutions. Things didn't always go quite right. So sometimes for those deployments or support, one of my sales guys, he'd come there because there was one particular customer he liked to talk to me the whole time while I was working. And the thing is, I can only do one thing at one time. So that's why I like that as you go through maybe some of these little issues here, I can talk and let you go through that. And that keeps things going. So I thought this went really well. Thanks, Steve. I see Isaac is back. So I'm going to bring him back on. And Spencer looks like he's gotten pulled into some other ape chain type thing. That's his life these days. But Isaac, y'all are both from Manchester, UK. I think this weekend it's worth buying Steve a pint. I thought this was a great live stream. I thought everything went really well, and appreciate y'all. One of the things that people always ask, though, and this is why I want to have you back, is how did you get into this industry? What led you to this? what is it that you like about it, and why are you here? And I'll start with myself, give y'all a chance to think about what you want to say. But I started out as electrical nuclear engineer, officer in the Navy, went to work in sales because I didn't do much design, went and worked for Cisco Systems doing network stuff a while back. This was back when we started to deploy voice over IP. Before that, I worked in the semiconductor industry for a couple of years, doing sales for Intel Embedded, Xilinx FPGAs, that kind of stuff. And then I saw I like, because I read a lot of science fiction and I do a lot of technical stuff. I like finding trends that are about to take off. So I could see that Cisco voice systems was going to take off. And that's why I got into it. Got into this industry after we sold our business back in 2015, started doing Bitcoin mining because I'm used to running nuclear power plants, putting in data networks, that kind of stuff. So Bitcoin mining was the fit. And then GPU mining, which got me into zk with Zcash, and then we forked the Zcash code into Zencash, and that got us into the whole space of developing and then Horizon Labs took the Horizon code and made Horizon Eon, which got us into the EVM, and we're like, oh, Web3 space, people like working with each other. This is so much fun. And then look to see how we could take the original idea of private payments with Zencash, which became Horizon, into doing more free-form types of ZK proofs by unlocking all the ZK research that's happened over the last few years, and the verification place is what unlocks it. So Isaac, tell me why you're in this. How'd you get into it? What do you enjoy about it?
Yeah, definitely. Just to go back a second, I totally agree about buying Steve a pint. That was really, really great, and I was taking notes in the background like a madman. So yeah, thanks for that, Steve. And yeah, I mean, I got into the industry in a similar fashion to quite a lot of people that I speak to when it have sort of opening intros in a call. Is during the pandemic. I was working in Dubai at the time. I was in software as a service. I've always been in sales, but software as a service, sort of more on the cybersecurity side. So always been in tech, and I got into crypto first from a trading and investing standpoint. And when I lost my first substantial amount of money, I decided to actually look into what it does, and then just never looked back. Really, I sort of fell in love with the idea of with decentralization and sort of, yeah, I mean, this sort of new concept of the internet and of money. And when I sort of got my first job in Web3, it just felt like a fit. I like you say, Rolf, it's so much more interactive, and I love the element of how much gets done in person at conferences, and obviously had the opportunity to travel a lot and work in different places. So it's just always felt like a fit. So yeah, since 2019, I sort of just never looked back.
Nice. Yeah, you got the chance to go back to Dubai recently for
Right.
Binance Blockchain Week, and you were on the floor. So that was, I bet that was pretty cool, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Loved it.
Yeah, yeah. So Steve, how about you? Why'd you get into this? Why are you still in this industry? What
Yeah,
path to success? How'd you start out as a developer? Like my son's in university right now, computer science, and I know he'd love to be doing what you're doing. So, and I'm sure there's people out there that would love to know, how you got this good and why you get into this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've had quite a long career now in software development. A lot of my life was spent as a QA, and naturally, you go towards. I was kind of always looking at the more technical side. So at some point, I just moved to being full-time software developer, and then I've kind of worked probably in most industries now. Government, finance, insurance. Kind of e-commerce, and I think a key skill is just being able to pick things up quickly. It doesn't necessarily need to be about the technology or the industry. It's just being able to pick up things and adapt, which is why I ended up spending about the last 10 years consulting rather than staying at a single company. But I started with Bitcoin at the beginning of 2013, so very early compared to a lot of people nowadays. I was fortunate enough to have friends who were working with Ethereum in 2015, And then obviously everyone knows everything went crazy in 2017. So I think I've had, what's this now? 1, 2, 3, 3 bull runs. I think this will be the third one or something. 2013, 2014 being the first one. But yeah, it's nice to work on something where you're actually interested in it. Like you can work in a lot of all these different industries. Rarely do you go home and come up with an idea for solving a problem you've just been working on all day. But it's quite different, I think, with crypto, especially knowing the amount of opportunity there is. So for a lot of people, it can either be the investing or actually learning about everything and building a network and coming up with your own idea. There's a lot of opportunity to kind of make something of yourself, like build something or whatever your goal is, you know.
That's a really important point, because if we're really here in the middle of another bull run, there's going to be people that are going to be able to make enough money that they don't have to work, or they can go and do what they have always been dreaming of doing. I was fortunate in one of the previous ones that that I decided to rebalance a little bit and buy some land, which I turned into farmland. So I've been doing a chestnut tree orchard for a few years. And after a few years of doing that, I'm like, I like doing this, but I also kind of like doing what I was doing before, which was, business development in a rapidly growing market with really cool people around. So about a year and a half ago, I let my trees grow. They're still growing. They're doing great. I get up to the farm maybe one day a week just to make sure everything's going well and the trees are growing. But I'm energized by being in this industry, by working with smart, talented people that because I feel like we're building the next great version of the internet that all the systems are going to be moving over to. And I like being part of that. So ask yourself every once in a while, is my advice to folks is, if you do end up being very successful and have enough money that you don't have to work, what are you going to do every day? What do you actually like doing? And if it turns out that, doing what you're doing right now is what you like doing, you keep doing it. So I'm right where I want to be. And that sounds like y'all are too. Anyway, so let's wrap up. So I think this was a great session. We're going to have another one tomorrow with 3 builders. So we're going to have Zane Cheng, at the CTO at Horizon Labs. He came on board and became the CTO a few years ago, implemented agile software delivery methodology at Horizon Labs. Horizon Labs delivers software on time with good features, secure. He's just, and then he was recently at ZK Accelerate at DevCon in Bangkok, did a presentation on the idea behind zkVerify and the technical implementation of it. So it's going to be great to hear from him. We've got from Hyperbridge. It's Dave from Hyperbridge. He's one of the guys that likes to be a little bit anonymous, just like Spencer was saying earlier. And so we're not going to share his full name here. It's David of Earth. Hyperbridge, like I said earlier, is a very cool bridging protocol. We're actually going to use it for zkVerify to be able to take these verification receipts to all the other types of blockchains already. And then we also have from zkPass. zkPass does, well, I'll let him explain it tomorrow, but it's basically being able to prove, we call it zkTLS, so prove that something in Web 2 is true, and then verify it on zkVerify, and zkPass verifies it in a lot of other places. But like I said earlier, zkVerify is really the best place to verify proofs. So that's going to be a really good session. And then on Wednesday, we're going to have a really technical deep dive. So get your questions ready for zkVerify. All right, Steve, Isaac, thank you. Awesome. This was great. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Rolf. Thanks, Steve.
Bye.
Okay. Whew.